So the research shows a clear benefit of classroom formative assessment for student achievement. The problem, of course, is that different people mean different things by the term formative assessment. And I would prefer to reserve the term formative assessment for those things that are really focused on the classroom. But I don't have a monopoly on the way that words are used, and I acknowledge that people are going to carry on using formative assessment to describe whatever it is that they think is their favorite form of formative assessment. You can't stop people using words in the way they want to use them. So I think we should stop worrying about whether people do or do not call certain things formative assessment. I think instead we should focus on the timescale. So we will have long cycle formative assessment, which has a role to play in monitoring student achievement and aligning curriculum. We will have medium cycle formative assessment, where students are engaged in the processes that lead to grades, going into grade books, and that's very important too. I think students should be involved in that process. I think we should get summative assessment as good as it can be and involve students in that process. And then we've got short cycle formative assessment, minute by minute and day by day. So what I'm suggesting is that we can call all these things formative assessment, that's fine, but the research evidence suggests that the closer the formative assessment cycle is to the instruction, the bigger the impact on student achievement. So I'm not saying that long cycle and medium cycle assessment are bad, I'm just saying they're less effective. The research evidence shows is the closer you are to the teaching itself, the shorter the loops in the formative assessment cycle, the bigger the impact on student achievement, minute by minute and day by day. Now, of course, the best teachers have always done this. The best teachers have always relied on cues from students about how the lesson is going to adjust the lesson to better meet the students' learning needs. That's why students learn it's very dangerous to frown in class. Because if you frown in class, the teacher will say, "You okay with this?" "No?" "Okay." So students learn to nod and smile. Of course, when the students are nodding and smiling, we think we are teaching wonderfully. I had them in the palm of my hand, you say. And of course, some teachers realize how seductive this can be, so they think they're being very smart using the thinking thumbs, as they call them. The idea is that every so often you stop the lesson and you ask the children, "Is everybody okay with this?" And students signal thumbs up if they are and thumbs down if they're not. And what you get, of course, is loads of thumbs up, because students are giving you a self-report. They want you to feel good, they want to feel good themselves. What is interesting to me is what a small shift you need to make to that technique to make it something very powerful indeed. So a lovely example in an elementary school the other day, a teacher was wrapping up how to punctuate the word "it's." So she writes on the board without any punctuation, "It's on its way." That was the shortest sentence that she could think up involving both kinds of "it's." And so what she did was she invited students to come up to the front and contribute punctuation to make it correct. So one little boy leapt up and added the period, always pick the low-hanging fruit first. A second student added an apostrophe, and a third student then came up and added a second apostrophe. The teacher waited a while, and then she asked the class, "Is that now correct?" And then she required every single student to vote yes or no. And that is so much more powerful than "Is everyone okay with that?" Because now there is no place to hide. Because if you signal to the teacher you think it's correct, then you've just shown the teacher you have no idea what you're talking about, because there's still a mistake up on the board. But even worse, if you vote no, you know what's going to happen, don't you? The teacher is going to ask you to come up to the board and fix the error. So those are the two key processes that we think are involved in classroom formative assessment: engagement and responsiveness. It's engaging every student, so you're getting information from the whole class rather than just the usual suspects. And then responsiveness, you're using what you've learned to respond to the students' learning needs in real time. Engagement and responsiveness are the key to effective classroom formative assessment.